Hello and hi, welcome to Yedidia Shofet and welcome to this week's Parshat, Parshat Toledot. This week's Parsha, this week's Torah portion, talks all about the lives from birth, about Yaakov and Esav. The two were great people. One was great in the honor of the tzaddikim, of the righteous, and one was great in the honor of the reshaim, the wicked. They were both great nevertheless. They were Shnei Goyim, as the Pasuk says, there were two nations. They were the leaders of nations. However, it was on two ends of the spectrum. And these two, where did they start off? They started off in Rivka's belly. They started off while Rivka's pregnancy. And while Rivka was walking around, while she was pregnant, you know, a lot of times the babies kick. Especially if there's an aroma, especially if there's something that's pleasant to them, they would kick. They feel an anticipation. So as she's walking, the Torah says, when she's walking by a place of Bet Midrash, a place of study, the Rashi, the commentary of Shlomo Yitzchaki says that when she passed by any Bet Midrash, a house of study, all of a sudden, boom, 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 there was a kick. Next, when she's walking by an idol house, what happens then? Boom, boom, boom. So she gets devastated. She gets worried because she's thinking, excuse me, she's thinking that how could this possibly be? I don't want my kid to be like this. What is he? He's going to the Bet Midrash in the morning. He goes to Kollel in the morning. Then nighttime, that's it. He throws everything away and he does whatever he wants, regardless of what the repercussions are. I don't want my kid to be like this. So she goes to the yeshiva of Shem Va'ever. She goes to the sage of the time and says that, listen, this is the situation. What's going on? What's going on with me? So he sees and he understands. He's like, listen, Shnei Goyim bebitnech. You have two nations in your stomach. She didn't know that. She thought it was one. And he says, listen, you have two nations. So as soon as he said that, she was relaxed. She was quiet. She didn't have to worry about anything. So my question to you is, how are you not worried? Now you know that definitely one kid is bad, definitely one kid is good, but come on, does any parent want to see one kid go bad? One kid go, okay, you have a good kid, but the fact of knowing that, okay, there's something else that the kid is going to go to a wrong point. Well, why is she mollified? Why is she all of a sudden calmed down? How is that possible? So it's very beautiful how the minds of the matriarchs and how the patriarchs work. Rivka was thinking, what is the whole reason that Yitzchak, my husband, the son of Avraham Avinu, took me as a wife? Why did they go all the way to Padan Aram? Why did they go all the way there? Why couldn't they just go to locally? So they didn't go to Canaan. They didn't go to the land of the Canaanites. But they had to come to Padan Aram, all the way there. They had to send a servant. They had to make a huge story. Well, what's the point behind that? You know why? Because over there, they knew everyone as being a stiff-necked, stubborn person. That was her answer. What do you mean? So what difference does that make? She understood the characteristic in order to continue your heritage is not to be precarious, not to be wishy-washy, as they say it in English. If you're going to be some days one way, some days another way, you have no values whatsoever. You'll never be able to actually discern the values. Even if you're bad, the chance of you becoming good is a lot harder. If you're good, the chances of you staying good is a lot harder. But the idea behind here is she understood that in the Torah, we were called the stiff-necked people. Why? Because throughout years of persecution, years of pain, years of being put in the dark over and over and over again, yet we were stubborn, we prayed, we didn't give up. And we once again came to our homeland. We once again were able to survive. We once again found hope. And once again we're able to learn and say tefillah, learn Torah. if we weren't the stiff-necked people, we would have assimilated years ago. We would have pushed back years ago. We would have thrown everything back years ago. However, we have to realize that it's not always for the best as well. Every trait that a person has, the Zohar calls it like a double-edged sword. It can be used for the good and can be used for the bad. We have to be careful how stubborn we can get. Because even though that we are the stiff-necked people that is able to uphold, that is able to continue our heritage, because of that trait, we have to remember that Shabtai Tzvi, he was a fellow. He was a fellow that he converted to Muslim. Now, what was so special about that? Who converted to Islam, he claimed to be one of the Mashiachs of Judaism. And after he came to be part of Islam, there were still people who thought that he was a Mashiach of Judaism. You can look throughout history, over and over. After the fall of communism, there were Jews that are still after communism. After 1948, there were still people who still were saying that no, that it's all about peace. It's all about peace. Sometimes we have to open up our eyes. We have to realize that stubbornness, it's very difficult for us to accept things. That's why for us, it doesn't take a moment in order to understand words of the Torah. Any Jew, if you want to help him understand anything, you can't just tell him a sentence or two. You have to sit down with him. You have to actually explain it to him. You have to spend your time with him. A Shabbat meal. What's so special about a Shabbat meal? It's not a fast food night. It's where you sit down, you take your time, you go through rituals. Everything in Judaism is a series of rituals. Why? Because we understand it takes time for us to understand and for it to sink in. Especially because of the trait that we have of stubbornness. We are defensive. That is our nature. But yet, that nature is also for our benefit as well. And Rivka knew this. Rivka understood that this is the trait that will continue. And the reason why she was mollified, the reason why she was calmed down, was because she knew that she still had it. And her kids still had it. And ultimately, even if they're good or bad, they would stick to what they believe and can still be turned around and stick to a good value. And never be just in the clouds and never find their route. That was the idea of Rivka. That was the idea in which Rivka was able to pass on. Was able to pass on to her kids. And that is why she was calmed down. I want to give everyone a beracha that they have a beautiful Shabbat. A beautiful time around your family. Not to be stiff-necked, but to rather accept each other's words with warmth. We don't need to be defensive to each other. We could only just enjoy each other's company. Shabbat Shalom.